Do you miss those old grocery items that suddenly disappeared without a trace? Well, I do too, so I piled up a list of 25 items we want back. Once staples on every shelf, these items might just have you petitioning for their return. Nothing screams 1980s snack time nostalgia quite like the creamy, frosty delight of Jell-O pudding pops. A creation by the Kraft-owned Jell-O brand, these frozen treats emerged as a must-have dessert for families across America. They were pudding elevated to a frosty perfection that melted just right on your tongue. And let's not forget those wooden sticks that gave every bite a hint of nostalgia and the occasional splinter. Originally marketed with the help of Bill Cosby in a series of wildly successful commercials, pudding pops were everywhere. They were stocked in freezer aisles nationwide and were as much a cultural staple as Saturday morning cartoons. What really set them apart was the perfect blend of creamy texture and frozen treat, making them unlike anything else at the time. No wonder they felt like a reward for good report cards and mowed lawns. So why did they disappear? Some say it was production costs that couldn't compete with simpler ice cream novelties. Others blame marketing missteps after the product was handed off to Popsicle. Attempts to bring them back in the 2000s just weren't the same. The texture changed, and they lacked that classic magic. In 1987, Hi-C took the juice world by storm with a citrusy green concoction that slimed its way into pop culture history, Ecto Cooler. Introduced as a tie-in to the real Ghostbusters cartoon, this fluorescent drink was a real liquid icon. Packaged with Slimer's mischievous grin splashed across the box, it became the ultimate lunchbox flex for kids. Bright green juice might not sound appetizing, but Ecto Cooler was surprisingly delicious, a zesty, tangy orange flavor that hid its true hue like a paranormal secret. Its success was no ghost story. Ecto Cooler rode the Ghostbusters wave into the 1990s, outliving the cartoon itself by nearly a decade. But like many pop culture phenomena, its time eventually ran out. By 2001, it was rebranded and quietly exorcised from grocery store shelves. Some say it was a victim of shifting trends. Others believe it simply outlived its supernatural charm. Fans weren't ready to let it go. In 2016, Coca-Cola revived Ecto Cooler for the Ghostbusters reboot, bringing Slimer and that citrusy kickback. It vanished again, but not before reigniting a wave of nostalgia. To this day, petitions and do-it-yourself recipes float around online, proving that Ecto Cooler still haunts the hearts of its fans. Few snacks captured the neon spirit of the 1990s quite like Planters cheese balls. These bite-sized, cheese-dusted orbs were a cultural event. Packaged in a bright blue canister that popped off store shelves, they practically begged to be grabbed during every grocery run. And once you opened that iconic foil seal, there was no turning back. The cheese dust was unstoppable. Your fingers were orange for hours, no matter how many napkins you used. Cheese balls were a perfect marriage of flavor and crunch. The texture was airy yet satisfying, and the sharp, tangy cheese flavor was impossible to forget. Their popularity extended beyond snack time. They became a staple at parties, movie nights, and anywhere a little extra flavor was needed. So why did they disappear in 2006? Planters never gave a clear reason, but some speculate it was due to declining sales as tastes shifted toward healthier snacks. Fans, however, refused to move on. After years of online petitions and social media campaigns, Planters briefly revived cheese balls in 2018, and they sold out faster than you could say cheesy goodness. Unfortunately, their comeback was short-lived, leaving us to wonder if the blue canisters will ever make another glorious return. Back in the 1970s, when innovation seemed to touch every aisle of the grocery store, Kraft Foods unleashed a quirky creation that left taste buds buzzing: Kougall-flavored peanut butter. This wasn't your average peanut spread. Kougall came in a rainbow of unusual flavors: chocolate, banana, cinnamon, and even vanilla. The jars were just as fun, sporting googly-eyed cartoon mascots that seemed to promise, "This isn't your mom's PB&J." For a brief moment, Kougall captured the hearts and sandwiches of adventurous eaters everywhere. Parents appreciated the novelty, while kids loved the sweet twist on a classic staple. Chocolate peanut butter on toast? Cinnamon peanut butter on apple slices? The possibilities felt endless. It was smooth enough to spread on bread, but thick enough to cling to a spoon for late-night snacking. Despite its charm, Kougall's time on shelves was short-lived. By the late 1970s, it had vanished, likely due to limited demand or an overcrowded peanut butter market. And while it never saw a true comeback, Kougall lives on in the memories of those who grew up with it, or in the wistful stories told by parents to their kids. Once upon a time, in the enchanted ovens of the Keebler elves, there emerged a cookie that was part treat, part treasure: Keebler Magic Middles. Introduced in the 1980s, these cookies were nothing short of a snack-time masterpiece. From the outside, they looked like your standard shortbread cookie, but one bite revealed the magic: a gooey, decadent center filled with either creamy chocolate or buttery caramel. It was like the elves had figured out how to bake happiness into every bite. Magic Middles quickly became a fan favorite, beloved for their unique texture and indulgent flavor. The contrast between the crumbly outer shell and the warm, molten filling made them feel like a gourmet treat, even if you were eating them straight out of the bag in front of the TV. Despite their popularity, these little treasures disappeared in the mid-1990s. Keebler has never given a definitive reason, but some speculate that production costs or shifts in consumer trends were to blame. Fans have been calling for their return ever since, even launching petitions and social media campaigns. Sadly, the elves seem to have retired this recipe for good, leaving us with only sweet memories, and maybe a little hope that one day, magic might strike again. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Nestle had kids everywhere asking, "What's in the Wonder Ball?" This chocolate-coated mystery treat was a real adventure. Each hollow ball of milk chocolate was filled with tiny candy surprises, and unwrapping it felt like opening a treasure chest. The candy inside came in fun shapes and themes, from cartoon characters to animals, making every Wonder Ball feel like a personalized gift from the candy gods. But it wasn't just the candy that made Wonder Ball memorable. It was the sheer excitement of the unknown. The foil wrapper and colorful box promised a surprise every time. For kids, it combined two irresistible things: sweets and toys. However, the fun came to a halt in 1997 when Nestle pulled Wonder Ball off shelves due to safety concerns. The small candies inside posed a choking hazard, and for a time, the concept of mixing food and surprises became controversial. Fans were thrilled when it made a comeback in 2000 with candy instead of toys inside, but the magic wasn't quite the same. Eventually, the Wonder Ball faded again, leaving behind fond memories of a sweeter, more adventurous time in snacking history. Sometimes the strangest ideas become cult classics. Take Hubba Bubba soda, for example. Yes, a bubblegum-flavored soda. Launched by the makers of the popular Hubba Bubba gum in the 1980s, this drink had the audacity to turn our expectations upside down. Imagine the sweet, chewy taste of bubblegum in liquid form. It was a fizzy pink concoction that somehow made perfect sense in a world where kids were always chasing the next big flavor. Whether you loved it or didn't quite know what to make of it, one thing was clear: Hubba Bubba soda was unforgettable. The product's bright pink hue and distinctly sugary taste made it a hit with adventurous soda drinkers, though it was as much a curiosity as a drinkable treat. For a brief moment, this quirky product was part of the 80s pop culture landscape, lining shelves right alongside other iconic products like Fruit Stripe Gum and Crystal Pepsi. Sadly, like many eccentric 90s concoctions, Hubba Bubba soda vanished, likely due to limited demand and the challenge of maintaining that bubblegum flavor in a carbonated drink. Despite occasional whispers about a comeback, it hasn't returned. In 1992, Pepsi made a bold move to redefine soda. Enter Crystal Pepsi, a clear cola that promised to deliver the same cola taste, but with an unexpected twist: no artificial color. It was as if Pepsi had looked into the future and decided, why not make cola look as clean as the space-age tech we all dream about? The result was a crisp, almost citrusy version of the familiar cola flavor, which had many wondering if clear was the new black. The sleek, transparent bottles seemed to scream, "The future is now." The product became a marketing sensation, tapping into the early 90s fascination with all things futuristic. It was everywhere, on TV, in stores, and even tied to a high-energy advertising campaign with Van Halen's hit song, "Right Now." Fans lined up for a taste, but not everyone was sold on the idea of clear soda. Some even compared the taste to a cola-flavored lemon-lime drink, which didn't sit well with traditional cola lovers. Despite its buzz, Crystal Pepsi was discontinued in 1993 due to lower-than-expected sales. Fans, however, refused to let go. After years of petitions and internet campaigns, Pepsi brought it back briefly in 2015 for a limited-time run. Back in the early 2000s, Altoids did something truly unexpected. They made sour mints. They made Altoids Sours, a candy that combined the classic minty punch of Altoids with a burst of tart, tangy flavor. Available in flavors like lemon, lime, and grapefruit, these little tangy gems packed a sour punch that could rival even the most intense sour candies on the market. Unlike your average mint, Altoids Sours delivered a refreshing, electrifying sensation, making them the go-to treat for those looking to tingle their taste buds with something bold. Their appeal was simple, yet fun. Those sour crystals were an experience, one that not only freshened your breath but left a lasting impression. With their unique flavor profile and bold bite, Altoids Sours became a hit with candy lovers looking for something beyond your typical mint. Unfortunately, by the mid-2000s, these sour morsels disappeared from shelves, likely due to fluctuating consumer tastes and lower demand for sour candy at the time. Attempts to bring them back have been limited to online petitions and wistful blog posts. Despite fans' calls for a return, Altoids Sours remain a nostalgic relic, their sharp, tangy essence a fleeting but unforgettable part of candy history. In the late 1980s, when snack innovation seemed to have no limits, a company called Fruit Wrinkles hit the market and delivered a treat that was ahead of its time. These chewy fruit snacks were unlike anything else on the shelf, featuring an oddly delightful wrinkled texture that made them look as unique as they tasted. Think of them as the fruit snacks with a twist, literally. Each piece was packed with bold fruit flavor and had a squishy, wrinkled shape that made them feel like you were biting into a fun-sized, fruit-filled pillow. Fruit Wrinkles quickly became a snack sensation, combining the growing popularity of fruit-flavored snacks with a fun, textured experience. Kids couldn't get enough of the variety. Apple, grape, cherry, and the idea of eating fruit didn't seem nearly as boring when it came in such a playful form. The colorful packaging and quirky design only added to their charm. But by the early 90s, the Fruit Wrinkles phenomenon fizzled out. It's unclear why. They may have been too ahead of their time, or perhaps the market had simply shifted toward more traditional snacks. Despite a few internet rumors and nostalgic fan requests, Fruit Wrinkles never made a comeback. In the early 90s, Tato Skins chips brought something special to the snack aisle, the bold, hearty flavor of real potato skins, seasoned to perfection. Unlike the typical thin, crispy potato chips, Tato Skins had a thicker, more rustic texture, and they came packed with flavors like sour cream and onion and cheddar. With a deliciously satisfying crunch and a robust potato-forward taste, they quickly became a favorite for snack lovers looking for something a bit more substantial than the usual chips. Their secret weapon was the potato skin itself. That's right. The very part that's often discarded during the chip-making process was front and center here, adding a rich, earthy flavor that made Tato Skins feel like a gourmet snack in a bag. For those who loved the flavor of a baked potato, these chips were a perfect way to get a quick, savory fix. Despite their initial success, Tato Skins chips faded from shelves by the late 90s, possibly due to shifting consumer preferences or competition from newer, flashier snacks. Attempts to bring them back have been met with some success in the form of limited edition releases, but a full-scale return has yet to happen. Baking just got a whole lot easier in the 1970s thanks to Betty Crocker's Stir and Frost cake mix, a game-changing innovation for home bakers everywhere. This all-in-one mix promised a cake that not only rose to perfection, but also came with its own frosting. No need to fuss with separate cake and frosting recipes. Just stir, bake, and frost. It was convenience wrapped in a box, and it made birthdays, holidays, and just because cake moments a breeze. What made it stand out? For starters, the frosting was part of the magic. Instead of having to whip up frosting from scratch, Betty Crocker simplified it with an easy-to-make powder mix that tasted like it was made by an expert baker. The mix also ensured the cake was moist and flavorful, leaving many to think they'd just unlocked a shortcut to bakery-quality cakes at home. Despite its popularity, the Stir and Frost cake mix quietly disappeared in the early 2000s, likely overshadowed by newer, trendier products in the baking aisle. Fans have occasionally lobbied for its return, but it hasn't resurfaced in any significant way. For those who remember it, this mix was a sweet slice of the past, a shortcut to both baking success and childhood memories of indulgent homemade cakes. In the 1990s, when sugary snacks were practically a lifestyle choice, Yoplate's Trix Yogurt hit the scene and instantly became a vibrant staple for kids. Inspired by the colorful Trix cereal, this yogurt was an explosion of fruity flavors and eye-catching swirls that made eating yogurt feel like a fun adventure. The creamy texture and sweet taste were irresistible, especially for kids who had long associated Trix with their beloved breakfast cereal. What set Trix Yogurt apart was that it wasn't just the fun colors or the fact that it could turn your spoon into an edible paintbrush. The real magic was in how it catered to those sweet-tooth cravings, delivering a satisfying treat that parents could feel okay about giving their kids, since, it was technically yogurt. But by the early 2000s, the yogurt disappeared from store shelves. Despite its popularity, it faced stiff competition from other yogurt brands, as well as the growing demand for more health-conscious snack options. A few attempts have been made to bring it back, but nothing quite captured the same excitement. In the 1980s, lunchboxes got a little brighter thanks to Giggles Cookies. These delightful treats were the perfect snack for kids, combining fun and flavor in a way that made every bite a little bit of joy. What made Giggles stand out was their playful design, a smiley face on each cookie, with a double layer of fillings sandwiched between. Whether it was chocolate and vanilla or peanut butter and chocolate, these cookies were a little celebration in each package. Giggles were the kind of cookies you could trade at lunch, show off to your friends, and, of course, eat by the dozen. Their bright, cheeky smile on each cookie was a perfect match for the vibrant, carefree spirit of 80s snacking. Every lunchbox seemed to have at least one package, making it a universal childhood memory. But by the early 90s, Giggles vanished, likely overwhelmed by competition and changing consumer preferences. The fun, quirky cookies didn't seem to fit into the more serious snack trends of the time. Giggles Cookies never made a full return to store shelves, leaving fans to reminisce about a snack that was as charming as it was delicious. Picture this: the 1970s, America's pastime, and a candy bar that managed to hit a home run in both the sports and snack worlds, Reggie Bar. Named after baseball legend Reggie Jackson, this candy bar had a unique combination of milk chocolate, caramel, and peanuts that made it a hit with fans on and off the field. It was a piece of baseball history, turning every bite into a bit of Americana. Tying itself to Reggie Jackson, who was a massive star in the 70s, the candy bar capitalized on his fame and the growing popularity of athlete endorsements in advertising. Every fan who grabbed one felt like they were sharing in a moment of sporting greatness, all while indulging in a sweet treat. Unfortunately, as with many things, the sweet ride came to an end. By the mid-80s, the Reggie Bar was discontinued, likely due to changing market trends and shifting tastes. Attempts at a comeback were made in the early 2000s, but they failed to capture the magic of the original. Still, for anyone who remembers, the Reggie Bar is a nostalgic link to a time when baseball and candy bars shared the spotlight. In the 70s and 80s, the Carnation breakfast bar was the ultimate on-the-go breakfast for busy families. Picture this: you're rushing out the door, trying to get your day started, and instead of a traditional sit-down breakfast, you grab a bar that's packed with everything you need: energy, nutrients, and a touch of sweetness. Each one was designed to give you a solid start to your day, with a good mix of protein, vitamins, and whole grains, all in a convenient bar format. Perfect for kids heading to school or parents looking for a quick breakfast fix, they were a bit of a revolutionary treat in a world where breakfast was often rushed. However, despite their popularity, Carnation breakfast bars disappeared in the early 90s. As breakfast trends shifted, with a rise in more health-conscious choices and granola-style bars, Carnation's formula didn't quite keep up. Attempts to bring them back have been few and far between, with no major relaunch. For many, though, Carnation breakfast bars remain the quintessential nostalgic breakfast, the one that you could eat without even slowing down your morning rush. Hostess didn't just make Twinkies, they made a whole new chocolate-covered experience with the introduction of Chocodiles. Imagine the soft, spongy goodness of a Twinkie, but with a rich, smooth chocolate coating. It was the chocolate lover's dream, and for a time, it was one of Hostess's quirkiest and most beloved creations. In the 1980s, Chocodiles became a fun twist on the classic Twinkie, drawing in fans who craved something a bit more indulgent. Not only did it appeal to Twinkie lovers, but it also attracted those who wanted the ultimate sweet treat. After all, who could resist a chocolate-coated version of the iconic snack that already had a cult following? While they may not have had the same mainstream presence as their original counterpart, Chocodiles earned a small but loyal fan base. These fans still reminisce about the chocolate-dipped snack with a bit of nostalgia for those school lunchboxes and weekend treats. Sadly, the Chocodiles were eventually discontinued, likely due to changing consumer tastes and the evolving snack market. However, the treat wasn't forgotten. Fans have occasionally seen limited edition relaunches, sparking excitement in the hearts of those who've missed that chocolatey twist on the original. In the mid-2000s, Pringles decided to shake up the snack aisle with something truly unexpected: pecan pie chips. Yes, you heard that right. A savory snack with a bold, sweet twist, combining the flavors of the beloved pecan pie with the crispy texture of your favorite chip. It was a daring concept, blending the sweet nuttiness of the dessert with the familiar crunch of a chip, making it a snack unlike any other. Launched as part of Pringles' specialty flavor lineup, these chips had their moment of fame among adventurous snackers who loved the combination of sweet and salty. The unique taste, with its rich pie-like flavor, was a curious and memorable experience. For many, it brought back the warmth of autumn afternoons spent with family, enjoying pecan pie, but in a much more portable form. Despite their creative appeal, Pringles pecan pie chips were short-lived. It's believed that the flavor didn't quite resonate with enough snackers to stay on the shelves. After their discontinuation, fans were left lamenting the loss of this peculiar treat, though no official comeback has been made. For those who tried them, pecan pie chips remain a fond and quirky memory, proof that sometimes it's not the traditional flavors that steal the show, but the unexpected ones. Back in the early 90s, Willy Wonka introduced a candy that seemed to be as whimsical as its name: Oompas. Inspired by the iconic characters from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, these colorful, round candies were a blend of sweet and tangy, resembling the fun and adventurous spirit of the Wonka brand itself. Oompas were like a quirky cousin to other fruit-flavored candies on the market, with their smooth, chewy texture and vivid, bright colors that made them almost as fun to look at as they were to eat. While they never achieved the household name status of some of Wonka's other candies, they definitely had a dedicated fan base. The vibrant, tropical flavor combinations had a certain charm that lingered long after the last chewy bite. Sadly, the candy was discontinued by the late 90s, likely due to slow sales despite their initial popularity. It's a bit of a mystery, though, considering how many fans still remember them fondly. Though there have been no major efforts to bring Oompas back in full force every now and then, the name resurfaces in candy nostalgia groups and in the hearts of those who remember those chewy little delights. Some meals carry a history rich enough to make you feel like you've stepped back in time with every bite. Campbell's pepper pot soup was one of those dishes, a hearty, spicy soup with origins that trace all the way back to the 18th century. a soup with roots so deep it practically comes with a side of American history. Originally marketed as a winter warmer, this peppery, beefy broth contained tender chunks of beef tripe, vegetables, and a dash of spice that could make you feel cozy even in the coldest of seasons. For decades, this soup filled the shelves, especially throughout the 70s and 80s, with loyal fans embracing its warmth and heartiness. There was something about it. The complex flavor, the perfect balance of spice, and that thick, comforting texture that made it a beloved winter staple. So, what happened? Over time, demand dwindled. Not everyone was fond of the tripe, and with changing tastes and health trends, Campbell's decided to pull it off the shelves. Despite that, pepper pot soup's nostalgic glow hasn't faded, and there have been occasional whispers about a possible return. Sadly, nothing has fully materialized yet. For those who grew up with it, the soup remains a cherished memory, a taste of winter past that brings warmth long after the bowl is empty. In the 70s, the kitchen was a laboratory of culinary innovation, and nowhere was that more apparent than in the rise of funky experimental desserts. Libby's fruit float was one such creation, a concoction that made fruit salad seem downright sophisticated. This retro dessert mix, a blend of gelatin, fruit, and whipped topping, was the epitome of mid-century fun. It was an experience, a colorful treat that could be served as a light, refreshing end to any meal. Libby's tapped into the vibrant experimental energy of the 70s, a time when cooking trends were bursting with new ideas. Fruit float was marketed as a quick, easy-to-make dessert, especially for busy families. What set it apart was its airy, floating texture, thanks to that jiggly gelatin and soft whipped cream-like topping. It wasn't just dessert. It was a conversation starter at any dinner party. But as the years went on, the appeal of gelatin-based desserts began to fade. As tastes evolved and healthier eating trends emerged, Libby's decided to discontinue fruit float. Despite this, the dessert has remained a fond memory for many who grew up with it, and while there were rumors of a revival, it never quite made its comeback. Before Pop-Tarts took over the breakfast scene, there was another contender with a flakier, more sophisticated edge, Kellogg's Danish Go-Rounds. Released in the 1980s, these were a gourmet twist on the pop-and-go breakfast, packed with fruit fillings and wrapped in a buttery, flaky pastry crust. Unlike the standard Pop-Tart, Danish Go-Rounds offered a taste that was closer to a pastry from a local bakery, bringing a touch of elegance to the hectic mornings of the 80s. These breakfast treats were a little indulgence wrapped up in foil, ready for a toaster. The golden, flaky dough filled with creamy fruit flavors or even cinnamon made them stand out in the crowded world of breakfast convenience foods. For many, the scent of Danish Go-Rounds toasting in the morning was the smell of nostalgia itself, a reminder of simpler times before breakfast became a grab-and-go afterthought. While they had their moment, the Danish Go-Rounds were eventually discontinued, likely due to their slightly more complex production compared to Pop-Tarts. Attempts at a comeback never really took off, though some fans still swear by the memory of the flaky perfection they once had. Pepsi Blue, the berry-flavored cola that made waves in the early 2000s, wasn't just another soda. It was an experience. Introduced in 2002, this vibrant electric blue beverage promised to redefine the cola game with its bold berry twist. It was Pepsi's answer to the growing demand for unique, flavor-packed sodas that pushed boundaries. With its bright blue color and sweet, almost candy-like taste, it became a love-it-or-hate-it sensation. Some hailed it as a refreshing change from the usual cola offerings, while others were left scratching their heads, or perhaps their taste buds. The cultural impact of Pepsi Blue was undeniable, especially in the early 2000s when bright, bold, and experimental flavors were all the rage. Yet, despite its initial buzz, it was soon pulled from shelves in 2004. The reasons was a mix of inconsistent sales and the fact that not everyone was sold on the idea of a berry cola. Sure, it had its fans, but it didn't quite capture the lasting appeal that Pepsi had hoped for. Attempts at a revival in 2021 sparked a flurry of excitement among nostalgic fans, though the comeback didn't last long. Burger King, the fast food chain known for its flame-grilled burgers and have it your way motto took a surprising turn into the world of grocery products with their table syrup in the 1980s. At first glance, it seemed like an odd choice. After all, who thinks of syrup when they think of Burger King? Yet, there it was. Syrup that was supposed to add a little of that Burger King magic to your pancakes and waffles. It was a product that felt a bit out of place in the fast food giants lineup, but fit perfectly with the era's trend of fast food brands trying to expand beyond the drive-thru. The syrup itself was, well, just syrup. While the novelty of having a taste of Burger King at home seemed appealing at the time, it didn't quite capture the attention of breakfast lovers. Its appeal was short-lived, and it was soon discontinued. In fact, despite being tied to a popular brand, it didn't manage to create the same level of excitement that their burgers did. No major attempts at a comeback were made, leaving table syrup in the dust of culinary oddities. Yet, those who remember it fondly still can't help but chuckle at the thought of what was essentially a syrupy footnote in fast food history. In the late 90s, M&M's gave fans something new with their crispy M&M's, a crunchy, airy core surrounded by the classic candy coating. It was the perfect snack for those who loved a little extra texture with their chocolate. Released in 1999, the product quickly gained a cult following. The combination of crispy rice and smooth chocolate was like a candy bar in every bite, providing a fun alternative to the original M&M's. However, despite its popularity, crispy M&M's were discontinued in 2005. Many chalked it up to changing tastes and their constant cycle of flavor experiments. But like a well-loved sitcom that just can't stay off the air, these little candies made a comeback in 2015, albeit in a slightly altered form. With a softer crunch and a touch of nostalgia, they returned as part of M&M's Celebrate the Bites campaign. But for some, it wasn't quite the same as the original. While many enjoy the new version, those first crispy bites still hold a special place in the hearts of 90s kids. The early 80s heralded the arrival of the Summit Bar, its light wafer and nutty chocolate blend, breaking the mold of the typical candy fare. Reminiscent of afternoons spent at roller skating rinks or browsing the latest records, this bar was a hit for those seeking a quick, delicious snack. The crunch of the wafers evoked the crispness of autumn leaves underfoot on the way to school, a subtle reminder of change and new beginnings. The Summit Bar was discontinued by the mid-80s. Changing tastes and the competitive market led to its decline. However, it lives on in memory, cherished by those who remember the thrill of lacing up skates and the taste of a well-earned treat. Jane Parker potato chips were a 1949 classic, and the chips were renowned for their incredible texture, which felt like eating a much thicker chip than what you were normally used to. Plus, those 4 dips were definitely phenomenal sidekicks to an already great snack. The dips only shine so well because of the flavors themselves, though, and some of these were pretty clever for a bag of chips. Deviled ham, diced pickle, chopped egg and tomato plus some mayo. That was all in one bag of chips, which sounds like a steal. You are getting a whole flavor profile for just about $1.50, and that was only one flavor too. They had others that used cheddar cheese and Worcestershire sauce or cream cheese and French dressing. Basically, all palates were catered to, but despite its versatility, it could not last the long haul, and eventually Jack in the Box came up with a clever idea called Frings, which mixed fries and onion rings in one delightful package. This innovative offering allowed customers to enjoy both popular side dishes without having to choose between them. It was especially appealing because of its novelty and the convenience of sampling 2 different flavors in one order. Despite their popularity, Frings were eventually phased out as part of Jack in the Box's initiative to simplify its menu. The need to streamline operations and reduce kitchen complexity led to the decision to discontinue Frings. They were focusing more on straightforward, faster-to-prepare items that could be served to customers with shorter wait times, optimizing operational efficiency. The Powerhouse Bar, originating from the spirited 20s, accompanied many through the vibrant 70s. It was a staple for road trips in station wagons, a hearty snack that satiated hunger on long journeys to national parks or on the way to summer camps. Its rich blend of peanuts, fudge, and caramel became synonymous with the anticipation of adventure. a reliable source of energy for explorers and dreamers alike. Sadly, by the late 80s, the Powerhouse Bar was no longer in production. Evolving market trends and consumer preferences toward newer, flashier candy options played a role. Its essence as a beacon of sustenance and nostalgia endures, reminiscent of a time when journeys were measured by sights seen and candies savored. Clover Club potato chips held a dominance in many areas of the United States, especially places like Kaysville. Under the watchful eye of Hod and Clover Sandals, the potato chip company was founded in 1938, and it actually became pretty deeply tied to Kaysville. People would associate the scent of fresh hot potato chips with the town, and the site of the factory as a landmark even though it closed down 15 years ago. It was a lot of work to get their potato chips to be the main brand on the grocery shop aisle, but with enough diligence, they made it work. The whole factory was offering authentic, genuine potato chips with little additives mixed in, which helped their PR and their flavor. The corn chips in particular did some real numbers in the town, and in other states too. While kids from 3 decades ago would not recognize the name, their parents will definitely fondly remember. McDonald's introduced the McDLT in the 1980s, and it was pretty innovative with its packaging that kept the hot beef patty separate from the lettuce and tomato. This was all thanks to a styrofoam container with dual compartments, one for the hot side and one for the cool side. The idea was to deliver a burger that tasted super fresh by maintaining the integrity of its cooler ingredients. However, despite its initial popularity, the environmental impact of the styrofoam packaging became a big issue. As environmental awareness grew, pressure mounted on McDonald's to drop the McDLT to cut down on waste. Ultimately, McDonald's discontinued the McDLT in the early 1990s, choosing to prioritize environmental concerns over the unique selling proposition of the burger. Down in Greensboro, North Carolina, Mrs. L.H. Wiggins came up with the Hummingbird Cake, which Southern Living magazine made famous in '78. This cake's got it all: bananas, pineapple, pecans, cinnamon, and it's topped with a killer cream cheese frosting that ties all those spicy and fruity flavors together. It became a big deal fast, thanks to its unique taste combo and the fact that it was pretty easy to make for any kind of get-together. Over time, though, as dessert trends evolved and global flavors took the spotlight, the Hummingbird Cake kind of drifted out of the mainstream. The cake is particularly beloved in the South, where it remains a celebrated part of regional culinary traditions. Typically, this cake was stacked up high in layers and generously slathered with frosting, making it a showstopper at parties. The curly Wurly Bar, introduced in the early 70s, instantly charmed with its playful shape and delectable taste. It was the go-to snack for arcade warriors, a sugary boost between games of pinball and Pac-Man, its spirals as intricate as the mazes on the screen. The chocolate-coated caramel was a favorite prize for winners of neighborhood scavenger hunts, a symbol of triumph and the sweet taste of victory. The Curly Wurly gradually faded from the American market, overshadowed by newer confections. However, its presence has faded less in other markets. It remains a cherished memory, a reminder of the carefree bliss of childhood competitions. Cheepos was another brand that focused a lot on being all natural and healthy, and it had some pretty clever marketing to show that point. It would compare a chip from a pack of Cheepos to a chip from any other brand and place both of them on top of a cloth. Then they highlighted how the chips from other places left grease stains on the cloth and how Cheepos never did that, showcasing how little oil was involved in making them. This was a pretty effective scheme since it drove people to the market for a bag of Cheepos and captured the people who swore off packed and processed foods because of it being too greasy or unhealthy. In short, Cheepos, being made from dried potato granules, made you feel completely relaxed while you binged a whole pack because you were not sweating the calories. In the mid-1990s, McDonald's launched the Arch Deluxe, a burger designed specifically for adults featuring a quarter-pound beef patty, peppered bacon, lettuce, tomato, cheese, onions, and a distinctive mustard mayo sauce on a potato flour bun. It was part of an extensive marketing campaign aimed at attracting a more sophisticated adult demographic looking for premium fast food options. Despite significant investment in advertising, the Arch Deluxe did not resonate with the intended audience. The burger's higher price point and McDonald's entrenched reputation as a traditional fast food joint did not align well with the gourmet image they attempted to project. The lackluster sales led to the discontinuation of the Arch Deluxe, prompting McDonald's to refocus on strengthening its core offerings and broad market appeal, moving away from targeting niche segments. Poke Cake hit the scene in the 70s and got everyone excited because you could do so much with it. After baking a simple vanilla or chocolate cake, you poke holes all over it and fill those up with Jell-O, pudding, or sweetened condensed milk. This trick lets the filling soak into the cake, making it super moist and adding layers of flavor. Jell-O pushed this idea big time, showing everyone how a plain cake could turn into a showstopper. It was a hit because you could tweak it with different fillings depending on what you were into. But as tastes got more sophisticated and folks leaned towards less sugary stuff, Poke Cake kinda lost its spotlight. It was usually served in a big dish, looking casual and family-friendly. You'd often see it with a fluffy layer of whipped cream on top, maybe some fruit or sprinkles too, just to make those flavors pop. The Forever Yours bar, debuting in the 30s and evolving into the Milky Way Dark in the 80s, captured hearts with its dark chocolate, vanilla nougat, and caramel. It was the hidden gem in Halloween hauls, the coveted treat that sparked trades and negotiations among friends. This bar was a symbol of special occasions, often shared during moments of celebration or as a comfort during movie marathons on rainy days. The Forever Yours bar was rebranded and eventually replaced by newer products. This reflected changing market strategies and consumer tastes. Its essence persists, serving as a reminder of the bonds formed over shared sweets and the silent promises made between bites of chocolate and caramel. Bell potato chips also had their own take on corn chips, even if theirs was a bit before Clover Club started producing. The taste they put out inspired the industry as a whole, though, and their entire range of different chips was pretty well known throughout the country. If you did not fancy potato, then they also had tortilla chips in flavors like onion and cream and barbecue. What was most iconic about the chips was probably the fact that every chip was shaped like a bell in each bag you would buy, which is real commitment to the bit, if you ask us. However, it was a pretty helpful marketing stint as it helped them gain a real identity different from other chips, which all more or less looked the same. Unfortunately, the Bell brand fell short of a century when their company closed down in 1995 after being open since 1925 due to financial issues. Introduced in 1968, the Burger King Jumbo was a straightforward but hearty sandwich featuring hot ham and melted cheese on a toasted hoagie bun. It catered to customers seeking a warm, quick meal option, different from the typical burger offerings. The Jumbo gained popularity as a comforting food, especially appreciated during colder months. Despite its success, Burger King discontinued the Jumbo in the late 1970s to refocus its menu on core burger products, aiming to sharpen its competitive edge against McDonald's. The Jumbo made a brief comeback in 2014 as a nostalgic item, but was again phased out as Burger King continued to streamline operations and focus on globally marketable high-selling items. In the 1970s, Coconut Grove offered an escape to exotic lands with each bite, its coconut filling enveloping taste buds in a wave of tropical bliss. It was the flavor of summer vacations, of sandy beaches, even in the midst of suburbia. This bar found its way into picnic baskets, enjoyed under fireworks on the 4th of July, a taste of paradise amid the celebration of freedom. The Coconut Grove was discontinued in the 80s. The ever-evolving candy market and the introduction of similar products overshadowed its unique appeal. However, the memory of Coconut Grove remains vibrant. It serves as a nostalgic voyage to warmer climates and carefree days spent lounging under the sun, chocolate in hand. The Texan Bar, with its bold slogan and chewy nougat, promised adventure in every wrapper. It was the fuel for imaginations running wild, for backyard cowboys and cowgirls embarking on daring escapades against imaginary foes. The Big Time Bar was a delightful journey back to the simpler joys of the 1970s. Wrapped in a vibrant package, it promised and delivered a big taste with its rich nougat center and decadent layer of caramel, all enrobed in a thick chocolate coating. It became the secret weapon for peace during sibling squabbles and the perfect companion for comic book explorations. Sadly, the big-time bar's journey came to an end in the late 80s. It struggled to compete with the flood of new and innovative confections flooding the market, despite a loyal fan base. Nonetheless, its legacy of bringing big joy in every bite remains a cherished memory among those who grew up with it. The Tater Twists, on the other hand, were a marvel completely unique that people had not thought of before. You have heard of curly fries, but these took the twirly aspect to an entirely new level. It was like eating a skewer kebab made out of thin, spiraling fried potato chips, and it felt just as good as that description makes it sound. With the right dressing or dip, such as sour cream, some cheese, and more chives than you would normally have, these Tater Twists bordered on becoming an actual appetizer. They just were that good, and we are not sure if the taste was the selling point or the sensation of crunching those whirls of fried potato. Either way, they sold more than a few dollars and were incredibly addictive throughout the 60s. Wendy's introduced the Super Bar in 1988, an all-you-can-eat buffet that featured a variety of options including salads, fruits, Mexican food, and pasta. It was designed to provide a more diverse dining experience, setting Wendy's apart from typical fast food offerings. The Super Bar was particularly appealing to families and large groups, offering something beyond the usual fast food fare. However, despite its initial popularity, Wendy's discontinued the Super Bar in the late 1990s. The decision was based on the high operational costs and labor-intensive nature of maintaining the buffet, which ultimately did not align with Wendy's operational efficiency goals. The discontinuation allowed Wendy's to focus on its core menu items, which required less labor and were more cost-effective to maintain. Magic Pan crepe cakes come from those Magic Pan restaurants that made crepe dishes a big deal back in the 60s and 70s. Here's how they do it. They layer up thin crepes with all sorts of fillings, from sweet creams and fruits to savory cheeses and spinach. Basic crepe batter is pretty simple. Just flour, eggs, milk, and butter. But when you stack them up and fill them just right, it turns into something special. Each layer was carefully assembled to ensure the flavors melded beautifully, providing a gourmet experience that was rare at the time. These crepe cakes were a hit because you could watch them being made right in front of you, which was pretty cool back then. Though they were a favorite for a while, as the Magic Pan spots closed down and eating out got more casual, crepe cakes weren't as common. When they served them, it was always with style, dressed up with a little sauce or a sprinkle of powdered sugar to make them look as good as they tasted. In the late 80s, PB Max hit the shelves, its blend of peanut butter and oats under a chocolate coating a testament to indulgence. It was the highlight of after-school snacks, the hidden gem within lunchboxes that sparked envy and trades. This bar was synonymous with weekend adventures, a quick bite before heading out to the latest blockbuster or a bike ride through the neighborhood. The PB Max was eventually discontinued. The manufacturer's strategic shift away from certain snack foods influenced this decision. However, it left behind a flavorful memento of the days when peanut butter reigned supreme. The simple act of sharing a candy bar could forge friendships and create memories that last a lifetime. In 1967, General Mills popped out Joey Chips, which was their latest attempt at nailing the corn chip formula. They advertised it as something simple. The box on the logo would read part corn, part chip, and the flavor was all right enough to pass. These were not their most successful chips, though, as they managed to coast by a quiet 2 decades in the market, not really making any noise like some other names we have gone over so far. Despite that, they did cultivate somewhat of a niche following for people who adored corn chips over all other kinds, and it became a go-to brand for them. It catered to that market for a while before they discontinued it in 1995. As most chips were going all in with different flavors like barbecue and paprika, General Mills could not keep competing with just plain corn chips. Alright, so let's talk about the Big Chef. This burger was the brainchild of Burger Chef, a fast food chain that wanted to give McDonald's Big Mac a run for its money back in the 60s. This burger featured 2 all-beef patties, a special sauce that was tangier and smokier than McDonald's, plus lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions, all nestled on a sesame seed bun. They marketed it as a heartier and more satisfying option, really playing up the big in its name to attract those with big appetites. Unfortunately, despite its popularity, the Big Chef couldn't turn around Burger Chef's financial struggles. When Hardee's acquired the company in the early 1980s, they streamlined the menu and phased out the Big Chef to focus on more profitable items, marking the end of its beloved run. Napoleons, or millefeuilles, are these fancy pastries with layers of puff pastry and pastry cream, all topped off with this slick glazed icing. Originating from France in the 18th century and known for their 1,000 leaves, that's what millefeuille means, these pastries were a big hit in fancy bakeries for their classy look and delicate flavors, perfect for high-end events and fine dining spots. Making them was no small feat, though, and as lighter, simpler desserts became more popular recently, Napoleons started showing up less often. Usually, these pastries were served up in tidy rectangles, with the icing artfully done up to make them total eye candy. The super precise layers and that creamy, flaky vibe are what made munching on a Napoleon feel like a luxury. As the 80s came to a close, Bar None entered the scene, offering a complex flavor profile that stood out amidst the sea of sweets. It was the taste of victory for arcade game champions, a well-deserved treat after the final boss was defeated. This bar became a symbol of cool, shared in the back rows of movie theaters or during impromptu skate park gatherings. Unfortunately, by the mid-90s, Bar None was discontinued, declining sales as consumer interests shifted towards lighter, less indulgent snack options were to blame. However, its impact lingers. It serves as a reminder of the thrill of new discoveries and the shared excitement over a candy bar that dared to be different. Crinkle potato chips were another famous invention of the Bell brand, and these kettle-style ridged potato chips were the go-to for many sandwiches, or just plain snacking in general. They were a lot thicker than you would normally expect a chip to be, and they were cut to be that way so that the crunch factor would kick in 3 times harder. Crinkle potato chips went great on wed sandwiches or things like a tuna salad sandwich, and the best part was that they were made using all natural ingredients. You did not have to deal with any kind of trans fats, which were picking up a pretty bad rep in the later parts of the 20th century. No GMOs or cholesterol-increasing ingredients were used either, plus they went great with all kinds of condiments. Ketchup, sour cream, ranch, or even mayo, and a bit of sea salt really amped up their flavor. Burger King's limited-time flame-grilled ribs were an adventurous menu addition, designed to capture the essence of authentic barbecue within a fast food context. These ribs were celebrated for their genuine grilled flavor, aligning with Burger King's branding focus on flame-grilled offerings. However, the ribs required longer cooking times and special kitchen equipment, posing significant operational challenges. The complexity and resource intensity of preparing the ribs led to their discontinuation. Burger King chose to prioritize simpler and quicker-to-prepare menu items, ensuring operational efficiency and consistency across all locations. This shift towards less complex offerings was crucial for maintaining the chain's fast service standards. Since the 1920s, the O. Henry candy bar has been a fixture in American snacking, reaching its zenith in the 70s. Its hearty mix of peanuts, caramel, and fudge was the perfect accompaniment to double-feature movies at the drive-in, where the glow of the screen illuminated faces eager with anticipation. This bar was a reward for chores completed, a sweet incentive that made raking leaves or washing cars slightly more bearable. Although its popularity has waned, the O. Henry candy bar faced discontinuation. Competitive pressures and changing consumer tastes were to blame. It remains a beloved relic, evoking memories of shared laughter in dimly lit theaters and the simple joy of a job well done. Laura Scudder's potato chips, both the woman and the chips she invented, were incredible. As an inventor, Laura Scudder made airtight packaging to go with these really delicious chips, which helped increase the shelf life of chips by over 200%. That was something the entire industry had to adopt because of its sheer effectiveness, so that's definitely one way to have a presence. The potato chips she made were loved far and wide across America, enough that she at one point held over 50% of the potato chip market share in California. Laura Scudder saw that the excess moisture found in most packages was killing the crunch of a potato chip, and worked around that so that everybody could have freshly crispy chips. We have a lot to thank her for, and Californian kids can certainly remember buying packs of these every day.
In the 1970s, McDonald's introduced onion nuggets, a unique side item consisting of chopped onions, breaded and fried. They were crafted as a vegetarian snack option before the famous Chicken McNuggets made their debut. The onion nuggets had a simple yet appealing composition, with a crispy exterior and a soft, flavorful onion inside, typically served with various dipping sauces. Despite their distinct taste and novelty, the introduction of Chicken McNuggets shifted McDonald's focus towards expanding its chicken offerings. Consequently, onion nuggets were discontinued. The shift was part of a broader strategy to streamline the menu, focusing on items with broader appeal and higher sales potential, emphasizing chicken over onion-based snacks.
The Watergate cake popping up in the 70s was all about riding the wave of the famous scandal it's named after. This pistachio-flavored cake, made with pistachio pudding mix, sports a funky green color and a nutty taste, lightened up with some club soda. It's usually decked out with a frosting that's also got pudding in it and sprinkled with pecans, making for a pretty unique look and texture. The whole novelty of its theme and the connection to a wild moment in politics helped make it a hit. But as people started digging more natural and less artificially flavored sweets, its star faded. Watergate cake was typically a sheet cake, super easy to slice up for casual gatherings.
The milkshake bar in the 70s was more than just chocolate. It was a flashback to diner dates and milkshake sips under neon lights. Its malted flavor was a bridge to those moments, whether it was sharing a shake after school or the anticipation of the first dance. This bar was a companion during walks home, the taste mingling with the sound of crunching leaves. By the late 70s, changes in consumer preferences and the emergence of new confectionery technologies led to the milkshake bar's discontinuation. However, it still stirs memories of jukeboxes and laughter. It continues to flavor the present with reminiscences of malted delights and youthful revelries.
Humpty Dumpty chips have saved many children from having their own great big falls, and whether that is the initial rush of the barbecue flavor or the tanginess of the vinegar and salt, these chips filled many cravings and never failed to do so. It was pretty common to go to states like Maine and see everybody carrying around a bag of Humpty Dumpties at their side or in their bag. Think of it like how we have Lay's today or Pringles, but on a more national level. At least, it was one of the only brands to have national advertising, and those ads were pretty memorable too. The company of which Humpty Dumpty is a subsidiary, Old Dutch Foods, put a lot of effort into their marketing. The most popular ones have to be the ketchup or sour cream and clam chips, but people dig the barbecue one a lot over the years.
Taco Bell once tried something different with the Bell Beefer, a taco burger hybrid that featured taco-seasoned beef, lettuce, cheese, and tomatoes on a soft burger bun. It was part of Taco Bell's efforts to innovate and offer new food concepts that mixed different culinary traditions. While it gained a dedicated following, the Bell Beefer was eventually discontinued as Taco Bell shifted focus to traditional Mexican-inspired items and simpler menu options to improve service speed. This strategic move was aimed at aligning Taco Bell's offerings more closely with customer expectations for a Mexican fast food chain, focusing on core products like burritos and tacos rather than hybrid items.
Butterscotch brownies, or blondies, mix it up with brown sugar, butter, flour, eggs, and baking powder, all jazzed up with butterscotch chips. These goodies swapped out chocolate for a sweet caramel-like vibe and caught on fast. They were super easy to whip up, making them a go-to for anyone needing a quick dessert fix without the intense richness of chocolate. Their ease of preparation and ability to store well made them popular for potlucks, school functions, and holiday treat exchanges. Over time, though, as bakers got more into gourmet and unique flavors, blondies weren't the main event anymore. Usually, you'd find them cut into squares, laid out on a platter, perfect for grabbing a bite without any fuss. The combo of a chewy middle with a bit of crunch around the edges really made these stand out. Bakers got more into gourmet squares, laid out on a... The combo crunch around the edges really made